My name is Marie-José Tassignon, and I'm born in Belgium and still live in Belgium. So not in the same place as when I was born, but still a Belgian person. In the meantime, working a little bit everywhere over the globe, and that is the beauty of the current communication. That is absolutely great. I work now mainly, my activity is still in the University Hospital of Antwerp, and also I'm working at the University of Antwerp, and that is my core business, let us say, but I have also a private enterprise where I do my expertise activities, and that is something that I started when I was emeritus. A little bit already before, but I am much more involved in that now. Now, there is my main subspecialty is currently, and I say currently because, of course, in an ophthalmological career, you switch from one topic to another due to the circumstances, different circumstances. So I started vitreoretinal, and then I switched to the anterior segment and went always more and more anteriorly from the lens to the cornea, and now I'm again going back to the posterior segment, but then in between the lens and the retina. So in fact, I'm interested in the vitreous now. In fact, this question is extremely important in the career of people. When I was in training, I was always saying, wow, those people on the stages, I wish I had their knowledge and their expertise. Now I suppose that more and more you are considered a little bit like a role model for one or another person, and it is sometimes from by hazard that you realize that because you are in contact. But indeed, my career was built up by people that I'm still very, very thankful to them, because they helped me a lot, and that is important in somebody's career. So the first person who helped me really extremely well is Professor Jan Worst from Groningen, from the Netherlands. He was a little bit a strange person, very talented and very innovative mentality and person. He had a special way of thinking, but in a way that I could really follow him easily. And you have some brains that are different from one to another person. So his way of thinking is quite similar to my way of thinking. And that's the reason most probably we came along very well. He learned me a lot, and it is thanks to him that I could forward in my work back in the lens, because we were able together to discover that the burger space was really very big, and that is thanks to him. But he was not the only one. Another person, of course, who was very instrumental to me was Charles Kellman, the inventor of the phacoemulsification. He was of course much older than I was, but we worked very closely together. I went to New York every year to give courses on cataract surgery in difficult cases. And already for me, what was challenging is not to operate one cataract case after the other, but be very selective in doing the most difficult cases, because then I felt myself challenged, and I felt myself growing in my profession by doing more difficult cases. Charles Kellman and Jan Worst, and of course, well, I had also the opportunity to meet Ridley, who was the inventor of the intraocular lens, a very simple person who could explain you very simply what were his ideas about the intraocular lens. David Apple spent the end of his career to communicate with him, to travel to his place, to interview him, etc. And I think it is a very rich personality. And he was a very rich personality, although he was criticized in his time. But you know, everybody who starts something new is criticized anyway. and that is, but that you have to live with, and that you have to accept and to try to overcome, because it's not the end of the world. If you are sure that you have that your ideas are good ones, I think that this is worthwhile to persevere and to continue to work in that domain. So I think that these three people and another person who is Charles Schepens, another Charles, but Schepens this time, who was in fact a Belgian person who, but after the Second World War, he went to Boston through London, and he did a marvelous job during the Second World War as resistant in order to save quite a lot of people. But he also met Pomerantsev, an engineer with whom he worked and with whom he developed the indirect microscope, for example, to examine the retina. And that collaboration between those two people was extremely important. And I would like to stress the fact that collaboration with people is really important. It doubles up your possibilities. You can grow much faster when you have a good team together surrounding you and helping you in order to work. So that is really, these are for me, the most important people in my career. Very difficult question. In fact, I was born, or my career was a little bit a turning point in the role of female in ophthalmology. And it's not that I'm luckily was in the period that they didn't look, let us take her because she's a woman, because that I hated. If they once that they said, we need to have a good repartition between women and female, let us take female to get that repartition right, then I said, no, that's not good. Or I'm asked because of my merits, but not because I'm female. That would be really very, very odd. And I must say that all the time that I have been proposed for positions, for example, the position when I was head of department in Antwerp, I was the only female with between 10 candidates, and all the other ones were male. So I thought I have very poor chances, but I got the job, not because I was a female at all. The same happened when I became president of the ESCRS. It is not because I was a female, but I just worked in the executive already for many years. And then they said, it would be good for you to be president, because it is a kind of, the president is not the most important job in the ESCRS. It is, of course, always an important job, but it is the executive as a general, as a teamwork that is important, and the president is more a kind of he can try. It's only 2 years, so in 2 years you cannot build so much, and that's the reason why I would say you become president of the ESCRS when you have done already 8 years before. Then you really have the maturity to become president, certainly for the ESCRS. And that is what happened in my case. So I did already 8 years of general secretary before I became president, and then past president. And then I continued to be involved in the committees because I like to I think I was also instrumental in that. The same happened a little bit with the European Board of Ophthalmology. I have been president of the European Board of Ophthalmology, but before I was involved in European Board, and it is due to your merit that you are asked to become president, and that is fine, not because you are a female. And I want to stress that fact. I think that's very important. So I think that, what is achievements? These are beautiful achievements, but it is not the most important in my life. What is the most important is that I was able to develop a method, a technique of surgical technique for cataract surgery, solving a problem which was posterior capsular opacification. It is challenging technique in that respect that the people are afraid to damage the posterior capsule, and I come with a solution by, you know, make a surgeon control capsulorhexis and implant both capsules in the lens groove, and you will have a PCO, zero PCO result over time. And that is right. But now ophthalmologists, yeah, they said, yes, but you know, then I lose my income of the YAG laser. And then you say, okay, if that is your aim, fine enough for you. It's not so nice for the patient, but okay, it's the responsibility of the surgeon. Now, for children, that's another history, because for children, the evidence is so big that you have the number of redos drops dramatically to a minimum. So I think that those who do not try at least to learn the technique, I think that's a little bit more an ethical problem, I would say, and it is a shame for the child. Now, this is one of the realizations, but what I also like to do is to develop instruments, to design instruments, to improve surgery, to improve your results, and then also, yeah, other techniques that I'm working on now. So I'm working on 2 different patents on research, but clinical applications, and we will speak maybe later about that. So this is the future. I think that this is very important, that you can work on new devices, on new techniques to improve, and hopefully this is a little bit stone, a little bit an improvement on which we can build from one generation to another. Oh, yes. Well, oh, that's a very simple question for me. And the answer, let us say, the question is difficult maybe, but the answer is very straightforward. Everything that I developed, I use it because I believe in it. And otherwise I wouldn't do it. So no, that's of course, everything that I developed, I apply in my daily practice. Absolutely. No, the women in ophthalmology are growing, and the number of women that are working and that are active and take responsibility jobs is increasing, very, very dramatically increasing. Of course, men also wants to defend themselves, and I think that now we come more and more to a kind of balance between genders, and of not all women are interested in the beginning of their career to involve themselves in responsibility jobs, because they have also the responsibility of their family, their other responsibilities maybe. Yeah, you do not always know about the personal the personal life of all the women. Everybody has their chances, everybody has their reasons why. I think that if you decide, and that is very important what I'm going to say, if you decide to go for a responsibility job, don't do it for yourself. Do it because that responsibility will help you to go further in your career, and to help you to reach and to accomplish what you want to do. If you want to increase, if you have good ideas about education, do it, explain it, and try to implement what you wanted to do, but not because you want a job. That is a wrong question. You see, that would be a wrong approach, and that is not a good inspiration to do it, to become president of this or that. Normally, a person who wants to take a big responsibility, like president of a society, it's time consuming, and that is something that you have to take into consideration. And those who think about it and who decide not to take up the job because they realize that it will be too much time consuming, I respect their decision. I understand that it is, for example, being president of a society takes you 1 day per week of your job that normally you would earn money. And that is, of course, not given for everybody. It's correct that quite a lot of people, and you do that for free because you're not paid. It's not paid. It's not paid activities. So you see a little bit. It's a balance also between earning and between giving, and this is something that everybody has to do that based on their private life, based on different aspects, and yeah, and but it is important not to take a job because of the aura or whatever that increases your popularity. That's a bad reasoning. Yeah? That is absolutely not what you have to do. Just be aware about the additional work that it will cost you, and of course also look at how the society is built up, because not all societies have a very supportive administrative uh, team. And this is if you have an administrative team that understands you very well, with whom you can collaborate by giving them kind of keywords, things they can continue to work and they can finalize what you would like to do, then that's okay. But if you have each time to explain again and again where you would like to go and what is your endpoint, and your people, the administrative personnel doesn't understand it, yeah, then it is not a good thing. So also the administrative surrounding of a society is very important to know before you say yes to collaborate with them. I must say, I don't know whether I'm a good teacher. I have no idea. That is, yeah, maybe yes, maybe no. I am not sure. I've never had complaints of my students, so that's already quite a good sign. On the other hand, yeah, teaching is of course something that I like to do, for sure. But I want to teach something in a very I want to reduce everything to a simple thing. In fact, nothing is difficult in life. Somebody who explains things in a very difficult way, that means that that person doesn't understand the real yeah, I'm not sure how to say that person doesn't I have to find the good word. You know, if you understand yourself the things very well, then you can explain in a very simple way. And of course, what you also have to do is to give the information in such a way that before the way that you got that it was needed for yourself to understand something. There are booby traps, you have to take all those different steps that you had to go through yourself, to neglect that and to inform your students about how to avoid the different way and to take the easy way in order to understand something. It is, of course, always interesting for the students to understand how you could reach your results that you have reached so far. This is sometimes also important. So history of everything, of course, not a simple thing, but history is so important as well. How did the people get to the point they are now? And this is what I like to teach. I want to go to the past because, in fact, nothing is based to your own merits. It's always building up on the shoulders of other people. So. And this is always a message I like to give to my students. I was not so some years ago, so it takes time before you can do that. As young teacher, it's a little bit more difficult. But once you have you're a routine teacher, then you realize that it is important. You know what is also important? students remember little histories. And that is a kind of mnemotechnical method in order to better understand what is happening. So yes, I like to teach, and I think that yes, I think that I have students a little bit everywhere over the globe. That's pleasant when you travel and you find people. Sometimes they say hello that you even do not remember them anymore, but yeah, then you realize, oh yes, that is a person I met so many years ago, and they don't forget you, and that's a good feeling. Yes, well, in fact, I think that this may be a cliche, but it is true that making your profession from your profession a hobby, that makes life much easier. And that is true. In fact, you realize that you know, I like painting when I was younger. I like painting, I like fashion very much. I wanted to, in fact, I wanted to become designer in fashion, but then I realized that it is a profession as such, and doing that as a hobby, it's not possible. You have to choose in life. And then children and or young adults, they who have quite a lot of talents, well, in fact, you have to realize that make up your choice and then pick up your hobbies later on when you have a little bit more time. But your profession, certainly when it is about taking care of patients, you cannot say to your patients, you know, that topic I do not know very well because I had no time to learn it. It's a little bit stupid, no? So no, or this is, I think it is, yeah, it is important to be fully involved in your profession. So yes, it took me it is a big part of my life. Of course, I had also a family, I had children, you have to raise them, I have grandchildren. It's lovely to be with them. And it's also important to be with them because by having grandchildren, you understand even better what happened when you were young parents in your time. So everything has its role in life, and nothing is to be neglected. The free time that you have, I think, you know, life is, for me, leisure and whatsoever is important. You have to relax, otherwise you cannot continue. But I relax in my job, and I can relax in my job. I have, of course, sometimes I have times that are really crazy and that I said, oh my goodness, why did I accept again so much jobs? But then I say, okay, I have to step back, and now let us give me a little bit of time to breathe free, to breathe normally. So yeah, everybody, that's a life for everybody. But yeah, for the remaining, I think I am still thinking about developing, but I'm always thinking in developing. I'm not just doing a hobby just to do a hobby. No, that's not for me. That's not interesting. You know, everybody makes his choice. But I've never been interested in doing, for example, yeah, golf is also interesting. You have to look at strategies of playing, etc. It is nice to do that as well. But then you have the other choices, and I said, but I have that as well in my job. I do that as well, building up strategies. So I know how to do it. Then I don't have to run behind that little ball. Although it is very healthy to do that. But I choose my exercises like I want to choose it. And so on sports, I always do that as well, but I'm not doing like a profession or whatever. It's like more, and it's also not like a hobby, because I understand that you need that to have a healthy life. Yeah, well, in fact, that's a good question, because indeed I would like to have already now a bag in the lens that has the option to give you accommodation or pseudo accommodation, patent is practically ready, and I hope that it will be feasible to work out and that it will be possible by the companies to take it over. Because, you know, with if I can realize that, I have then a solution of no PCO, no dislocation possibilities due to fibrosis, a lens that can be adapted according to the visual axis of the patient. There again, there is a lot of freedom, surgical freedom for the surgeon to center actively surgeon-controlled the lens based on most probably techniques that still will have to be developed, but there are already there developments that can be used in order to improve centration using different topics and using different technologies. Even if they have to be still to be developed, it is tomorrow they will be developed. So that's one thing that I'm working on. And then another thing that I would like to develop is, in fact, to treat patients who complain of floaters, but to treat them with a technology, laser technology, that is much more developed than the current ones, where the visibility of the laser can be of the floaters can be done in a completely different way than it is now, where you have the principle of docking the eye, stabilizing the eye, and treat purposely the floaters that the patients are complaining about in a much more complete way, so that you can really replace it. The laser can really replace the vitrectomy and avoid in about not completely all. It's not possible to avoid completely the vitrectomy, but in order to reduce the number of vitrectomies to perform in case of floaters, severe floaters, or whatever. So that is these are the two things that I'm working on. They are already quite there. Also the patents have been done together with the Ghent University, but also continue in a collaboration with industry. And I think that this is really very good. For me, it is a new world to develop new things with industry. But of course, I would also like to work in making new devices that could help the ophthalmologists, devices that can facilitate the ocular surface surgeries, different surgeries at the level of the ocular surface, or eventually, certainly at the level of the sclera, I mean, sclera, cornea, limbus. And that would be, I think, that is something that I'm also working on.